You believe in the devil, Father. I'm Daredevil. You believe in the devil, Father. I don't get to choose who I am. My delusion was thinking God had anything to do with it. I'm Daredevil. 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 Not even God can stop that now.
Welcome to the Daredevil cast. I am your co-host, Eammon Jacobs, and this week we're in the manager's office of Hell's Kitchen, desperately trying to sort out the staff rota, because Nick Staniforth has been picked up and taken out back by Fisk's anti-vigilante taskforce. Luckily, our good friend Tom Percival has stepped up to take a shift in the kitchen. How are you doing, mate?
Must admit, it's not entirely unpleasant seeing you again, Eammon. Well, yeah, I'm pretty good. Do you like my Vincent D'Onofrio?
Bloody hell. Fisk's in the room. Jesus.
Yeah, been working on that.
That was good. Nice. I appreciate it. I can see the effort. I can see that you're dressed in a white suit as well. You've gone full method in this.
I really have.
Well, it's good to have you back. It's been a few weeks. First off, just like, what have you made of the show so far? Are you enjoying it? Is it sort of patchy? What are your thoughts?
Enjoying it, but I don't think it's without its faults. I think to compare it to another superhero or supervillain, I'm not quite sure, or what Quilt Man's up to these days. It is patchy in places, isn't it? You can see the stitches of, there was a lot made of the production issues going on with this show, and I think at times you can tell that this is two different, I don't want to say different, but two different visions of Daredevil glued together. And I think that first episode is really good, and then these last few episodes have been, certainly all the stuff with Muse has been very disappointing, and I think this episode is a huge step up in terms of like the actual quality and the level of thought going into it. From the moment it opens with that shot of the blue flower, you're like, oh, we're doing something a little different here. Like, we're out of, again, this sounds really derogatory, like we're out of that Disney vision of what Daredevil is, and we're back in the Netflixy version of it, to use a terrible image.
No, I completely agree. Like this, you felt the shift change. There's a step up in quality. There's a step up in drama. There's a step up in violence, I want to say. I think you're right. It's a return to form, I think. But yeah, so this is the penultimate episode of Born Again, titled Isle of Joy. And here Matt starts to uncover the real reason behind why Foggy was assassinated by Bullseye, which feels like it happened a million years ago now. And Bullseye coincidentally manages to break out of prison by shooting a guard in the eyeball with his own tooth. So, MacGyver, eat your heart
I
out.
have notes on that guard, by the way.
I mean, if he wasn't dead, he'd be getting reprimanded.
Right, why did he take off Poindexter's safety mittens? Like, there is no reason that he couldn't be treated while wearing the safety mittens. And it's like, no, we'll take him off because the plot needs him to have access to scissors.
He needs to start throwing scalpels. But obviously after he escapes, it all culminates at the mayor's benefit ball. And we finally get Fisk and Matt reunited on the dance floor, of all places. And we finally learn that, spoilers, it was Vanessa that ordered the hit on Foggy. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, so my top level thoughts of the episode are basically that it's pretty fucking good, to be honest. I quite enjoyed it. It's not perfect. I think is the running theme of this show, is that it's good. I enjoyed it, but I still got notes. There's, the stuff with Heather, again, I'm sorry. I sound like one of those misogynistic podcasters, but I just don't like her. She's just not a very well-written character at all. And any time that relationship gets put in the spotlight, I'm like, oh, come on. Like, there's moments a bit that work, and then they just sort of keep just stagnating, and I hate it.
So I rewatched the episode at work today, and I as I've been listening to the podcast, I was very aware of the dislike you feel for that character. And I didn't want to come in and be like, yeah, you're totally right. She sucks. However, she does suck in this episode. Like, that I do not think is the actor's fault. I put the blame for that entirely on what's come before. Like, and it feels very much like had she been better written and developed in the preceding episodes, this might be her reaction to what happened with Muse may seem slightly more, reasonable. However, Daredevil saved her from a serial killer, and a serial killer, by the way, who was inspired to start serial killing because of her book, and she's like, Daredevil's just as bad as Muse, and it's no, he's not. I'm sorry, he's not. Like, yes, we can argue, we can argue, oh, well, violence is never the answer, and, violence just begets more violence. There's a whole, in a cleverer series, there's an entire thing you could tie into Frank Castle's methods here on how ultimate violence can end violence. However, we won't go into that here. But realistically, she doesn't come across well because she's like, Matt's making the reasonable point that Daredevil saved your life. And she's like, yeah, but he inspired Muse. No, that was your book. And then he has a reaction to her obviously being invited to that ball. And she doesn't... Matt, to be fair, does not explain himself very well. Like, it's classic sitcom writing of just say, Matt, I think Wilson Fisk killed my best friend. Like, that's ultimately his issue. However, she, who's supposed to be this licensed psychologist, acts as though Matt who is, as far as she's concerned, a lawyer whose best friend has died. In fact, no, forget Foggy. You don't need any of it. He's just a lawyer, and Wilson Fisk is, whether or not, I'm not entirely sure of what the status of his criminal record is within the MCU. However, he has been to prison for crimes, presumably kingpinning was one of his crimes, and she seems to not think, oh, well, clearly that's why he feels uncomfortable with this, because he's a lawyer. Like, what does it look like him, it could potentially threaten his legal career for him to be seen with someone like this. Maybe I should think about this as a trained psychologist and examine why my boyfriend may be having this reaction to me working with the kingpin of crime. Again, I do realize I sound like a misogynist at this point, saying, why do women moan about men, and why don't they just let them be awesome?
I know.
That's not what I'm trying to get across. It's she's just not very well written. That's unfortunately it.
Nail on the head, mate. I think, her performance is good. Like, I don't think it's to do with the actress at all. I believe her name is Margarita Levieva. I've probably butchered that to high heavens. But yeah, her performance is fine. Like, I don't have an issue with her. I think you're right. It's absolutely the writing, and just maybe it's a result of the the creative overhaul and just trying to make her character arc fit these two stories that they've been trying to tell. But that whole kitchen conversation in Matt's apartment, like, it jumps, like, it's almost like we've forgotten that the Muse thing has happened, because she's just chilling in his kitchen, bearing in mind that the last episode she was in hospital after being, like, sliced open. Let's be real. She lost a shitload of blood.
Sorry, sir, you've lost a shitload of blood. It's not looking good.
And it's almost, it's like we've forgotten that even happened. Their sort of conversation about, like, oh, he's as bad as Daredevil, he's as bad as Muse, like, is just categorically stupid. Like, even somebody who has, like, the, like, base level knowledge of who Daredevil is as a persona in New York will likely know that, yes, he's a vigilante that beats the shit out of thugs in the street, however, not a killer. So, and I feel like as a psychiatrist, the character should be smart enough to be like, oh, maybe a little bit morally grey, which absolutely, of course, but yeah, comparing him to a literal serial killer, I was just like, that feels like, for lack of a better term, overkill. It was just all a bit much. And yes, maybe Matt did overreact a little bit to the invitation from Fisk. Obviously, we know why that is. She doesn't really have an understanding of the backstory that he has, obviously. But I don't know, man. I just thought it was like, how can we whip these two up into a little, oh, there's drama in the relationship without actually giving any of it weight?
It was very confected, and she suffers as a result of it. She's made, like, the character, the writing makes her look worse just for the sake of them having an argument. And yes, Matt literally should have just said, he doesn't have to say, I'm Daredevil. He can just say, I think as I said, I think Wilson Fisk had something to do with the death of my partner. I don't have any evidence for it, but I think that's what happened. He doesn't. He does what all superheroes do and stares out of a window. Looking moody. As I said last time I was on the podcast, that's looking out the window at a city he cannot see. That's Matt's go-to response for when he's feeling sad.
Yeah, he is a bit of a moody little shitbag, but we love him for it, The one thing I did like about Heather this week is, and I promise we will get onto the heaven and hell section in a minute, but I do just want to say, I like the fact that she called Matt out for being a bad partner. She sort of says, you've been checked out emotionally and physically. You're not even, and essentially says you're not even listening right now because he's eavesdropping on Fisk, which I think, as in the superhero conventions, was a really good moment of you have this guy who is torn between his two priorities at the minute. You could see Fisk's listening to Fisk's conversation almost as a literal call to action.
Similarly, I like it when Matt doesn't tell her that he's not coming and then turns up and tries a suave one-liner, and she's like, fuck off. Yeah, Matt, fuck off. The first thing you should say is, I'm really sorry.
Essentially, yeah.
It's not her. It's the person with the pen. It's their fault. Bloody writers.
It's the bloody writers, Tom.
No, we're not.
Which we are definitely not writers, eh? But let's, we've kind of touched on it a little bit, but let's get into the heaven and hell section. What did you actually like about the episode?
So, I had lots of notes for my heaven because I think this episode is brilliant. I think I'll save that big thought for now, but I really like this episode. However, I am going to use this heaven section to rectify something that Nicholas Staniforth has gotten wrong several times on this podcast. And I'm going to say my heaven section was Michael Gandolfini. I love my little rat boy. When he is at the bar with, I'm blanking on the character's name now. His...
BB?
Yes. And he's like, I don't think we were going to get along. But now it doesn't really matter, does it? I was like, you shit heel.
The councilwoman.
Yes,
the councilwoman.
Yes, that's it.
Yes.
He's like, but it doesn't really matter now, does it? And I know what Nick's saying. I was out with Nick this weekend, and he was calling him a shit boy to me then. And I was like, no, you're wrong. But I do actually genuinely quite like that moment. I like these little I don't... In an episode full of really big moments, like Bullseye escaping from prison, Matt and Wilson coming back together, I like that the show took the time to give us just a little moment showing how Wilson Fisk's grubby little fingers were slowly ruining New York City by giving positions to people who aren't experienced enough to do them, to people who are simply loyal to him. And it's a less extreme version of what we see when the task force burned the journalist's hand. But it's almost so much more insidious. Just that little shit-eating grin at the bar. He's just no. He feels like he's won. So that is going to be my heaven section. I'll combine it with the bit with the cops, just this general feeling that I don't think we've seen an awful lot of, that just Fisk's rot has spread, and it is continuing to spread through the city, that, because I don't necessarily think the show is particularly, I don't know if it's particularly interested in showing that, doing a whole episode dedicated to corruption in New York. Now he's there, but you just get the feeling that it's on the turn. The Big Apple's not rotten, but you wouldn't eat it if you saw it in the fridge.
I mean, yeah, I think he's the definition of failing upwards.
Yeah.
You know, he leaked the Union Buster sort of thing to BB. You know, he's kind of fucked up here and there, and at every turn, Fisk's been like, well, do it again, I'll kill you, but crack on. And I think this is the culmination of that. Like, he has failed so many times, but Fisk has been like, well, if I keep him close, that's another element of control that I have within this office. Especially over the other lady, who is categorically like, what the fuck is everybody doing? Why? What are we doing here?
Well, it's a classic move to like centralize power. You put people around you who are underqualified to do the jobs, so that they have to rely on you for all of their authority, for everything that is them comes from you. So you know, like, you don't want competent people around you. And I just really like it, because he thinks he's being given a prize. He thinks Wilson Fisk is actually saying to him, I think you're dead smart. Go become deputy mayor of PR. When really what he's saying is, I need a stooge who's just going to do anything I ask. Go butter up these council people now.
I admittedly am not the biggest fan of Daniel Blake throughout the series, but I have to say, sorry, Nick, I also liked the shit-eating grin that he has in that scene where he's like, I have all the power now, lol, sorry. I'm younger than you, lol, sorry. Because it's all about just the sheer cockiness that he just like exudes. It's just, I liked it. Very Tony Soprano.
Yes.
Very on the nose. But I'm sure Nick may or may not have something to say on that later. What else is in your heaven section?
Obviously we've got. You know what? I'm going to leave you to talk about Bullseye, because I feel like that's clearly going to be your heaven section. I will say I really like the Vanessa and Wilson Fisk stuff going on in this episode, and the way it contrasts with what's going on with Matt and his lady friend. Like, the way that sequence plays out is so interesting. Like, you know, you can forget, like, there are so many parallels between it, but fundamentally what you learn is that Wilson Fisk realizes that the basis of any good relationship is honesty, even if what you're going to tell your wife is, I've been keeping your lover in the basement and making him take part in involuntary fight clubs. Like, and Matt, to contrast that, refuses to tell his lady anything. He's just like, nope, you know, like he could tell her the reasons he doesn't want her to, you know, why he doesn't want her getting close to Wilson Fisk. He could tell her that he's Daredevil. He could do so much in that moment to fix that dreadful situation, but he chooses not to. Whereas Wilson Fisk is like dedicated. He knows how to treat a woman. He's like, yes, I am a violent thug who, as I say, has been subjecting this man to beatings every single night. However, it works. And Vanessa's like, yeah, you know what? Okay, then. And I did write it down, but I've left my notebook in the other room, which is really helpful. The line she says, he's not part of us, or something like that. She says something that, like, and what is the name of the guy in the cage?
Adam.
Adam interprets it as she's saying, just let him go. Just like, let him go. He's been begging for his life. And what she's actually saying is, just kill him. Like, you know, and then she obviously kills him. Anyway, but I really like that moment. I think it's really clever the way it, like, Wilson and Vanessa are made for each other in so many ways, and it's odd to see the villain be the one in the healthier relationship, you know. And when they dance later on in that episode, and Wilson Fisk looks genuinely happy for the first time, maybe since season 1 of Daredevil,
which is low key a bit terrifying. By the way, holy shit! It's when he's dancing and he's doing like the finger guns. I was like, no, that's horrifying. Somebody's too happy. Don't like this. Bring back when I was a boy.
My father took a hammer to the nails, and I was the nail. Sorry.
Yeah, but I think it's interesting that obviously this whole season is about Fisk becoming more powerful and, you know, rising through New York, whereas you could argue that Matt is kind of falling. You know, he's lost friendships, he's starting to lose grip on work, now he's losing his relationship. He doesn't, you know, hasn't had the Daredevil suit to kind of give him something to do as much. So it's interesting that you know has also spread to Fisk's relationship being like, well, here we are. We've come to a healthier place of an equilibrium between Vanessa and Fisk, whereas Matt is just like treating his girlfriend like a mushroom. He's feeding her shit and keeping her in the dark. Like,
Nice.
you know?
Yep.
So yeah, I just Fisk becoming more powerful and being happy about it, and not just being like maniacal as well, is just so terrifying. I bet Vincent D'Onofrio has had a whale of a time just being like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna dance."
Yeah, you know, Fisk is proof you can have it all. Like, you can have the family and the criminal empire and be mayor of New York City. You can have everything. With the support of the right woman, you can make all your dreams come true.
But I mean, how do I follow that up? Jesus.
You can talk about Bullseye. Come on, literally, it's all you want to do.
Mate, come on. I mean, you know, we've talked numerous times about how Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio are Daredevil and Kingpin as much as Tony Stark and Robert Downey Jr. Wilson Bethel is Bullseye. Like, this is the definitive performance of Bullseye. Like, I know we've not had many in live action, obviously, but like, he is absolutely terrifying in this episode. Obviously, it kind of starts, he's in a place of vulnerability, you know, welcome to Gen Pop. And from there, he manipulates the situation any way he can to get the upper hand, you know, by calling Matt to have, you know, a chat, so to speak. He's not doing it because he actually wants to have a chat. He's doing it because he's trying to provoke him, because he's like, this is a tool that I can use, and that is, you know, Dex to a T. Everything is a tool that he can use to get stability back in his life, because ultimately that's what he wants, you know, as we know from season 3.
Yeah, as I say, I've seen this episode twice. The first time I watched it, and obviously Matt slams his head into the table, and he's like, "Take him away," and he says, "Oh, thanks, counselor," as he's being taken away. And I obviously, because I can't see the future, I didn't realize what was happening. And then on the second watch, when he says it, and you know he's loosened his tooth, and he's literally thanking him for giving him the means to escape, which will ultimately, you know, end with Matt getting shot accidentally, to be fair. But that line during their meeting of like, you know, good men will do it, you know, like protect their enemies or try to save their enemies, like. And then to have it literally play out later on in the episode, I was like, oh, someone took a day off work after they wrote that, didn't they?
Somebody cracked open a cold one and was like, yeah, that was good.
I know it's only 2:15, but I'm calling it. I'm done.
I've hit the nail on the head. Yeah, I think I definitely didn't. I thought it was like some sort of tactic. I thought it was going to be more to do with his, you know, his mittens. Yeah. I thought he was going to use the tooth to like unlock his mittens somehow. I didn't expect him to literally shoot a cop in the eyeball with his tooth. Like, I'm going to sound gross here, but that man must have a very strong tongue.
He must. However, something I did appreciate was, obviously, Colin Farrell's Bullseye famously killed a man with a peanut. I do quite like that they have made Bullseye semi-realistic, where he just injured him by spitting his tooth into his eye, rather because you do see him, like, you do see the corpse with a scalpel blade stuck in its head. So well done for, you know, not murder, because you can imagine in another world they'd have had him blow the tooth through the guy's head and carnage would have ensued. But as I say, that prison guard had it coming, because never remove a serial killer who specializes in throwing. Like, what were you thinking?
What were you thinking? Like, this is a man who clearly has no qualms with, like, I don't know, ripping off his own fingers or something. Like, he's gonna do something. Like, what are you doing? He is basically a human Swiss Army knife at this point. But the moment in that scene that I actually loved the most is, you know, Bullseye is obviously a terrifying villain. You know, we've had season 3 and that Daily Bulletin scene is just haunting. But the fact in here is that he's vulnerable and he knows it. He's not like a mustache twirling villain. Like, he's absolutely on the back foot. And I think it's really interesting to see how his approach is like, right, well, I need to take out Fisk then, because me being free is vulnerable, because I can potentially be used against him, because we now know that Foggy was a hit and not just a revenge plot. So I actually like the fact that he goes after Fisk and not Matt. I just think that whole, even though it's taken us, you know, quite a while to bring him back, I think it's been really worth it. And what I equally find interesting is that I don't think that Matt has said the word fuck the entire series, and I mean like the Netflix series. On my rewatch, I was trying to find it, and I was like, I don't think he says fuck. So when he says fuck you to Bullseye, you know he means it.
He said the one word, the worst word Disney will allow him to say. So he's never going to call him a "see you next Tuesday," is he? He's never going to drop the C bomb on a Disney Plus TV show. So, but yes, you are right. And again, you're right. I really like that moment when he gets put into Gen Pop, because there is a genuine look of worry that, oh crap, but what am I going to do? And you get the feeling that had he just been allowed to stay in, the lower security wing or wherever he was with his proper security detail, that he probably wouldn't have done this. Like, he was probably quite happy for now just to, sit in the background. But it's that betrayal where that he knows there's only one man who could have done this to him. And Bullseye, is many things, but petty and vindictive is definitely one of them. And he's like, right, Wilson Fisk tried to kill me. What do you do in that situation? Well, you bring order to things, so I'll just go try to kill him. Matt Murdock doesn't matter in that moment. Like you say, he's just that tool, to getting him out of there. This is between him and Fisk.
Yeah. Even though, obviously, Fisk is kind of the one that I don't know, man. I think Bullseye as a whole has become so much more interesting, even though he's not been in it much. And I really hope he's in the next episode, or like in season 2, because there's just more to dig into. And I also think that they need to right a wrong here. We had him in the Daredevil costume in season 3. Come on. We know that suit is somewhere still kicking about. Why don't they just, paint it blue, put a little target on it somewhere?
I was about to say, and when they do it, have him quote the Colin Farrell one and say, "I want a costume," or something. He says something like that in the Ben Affleck movie. I don't care. Yeah, do it. This actually does tie into my hell. I don't know if you're ready to move on to hell.
We can absolutely move on to hell.
This is my hell, but it's not really my hell, if you know what I mean. It's a bigger problem.
Purgatory?
No, what I would say is there is a moment when Wilson Fisk he's saying like, no, it's not Wilson Fisk. His assistant is like saying, and the public loves it. And he throws a load of papers up, and it's all like, for Wilson Fisk, A-OK in our book. And they're all like, the New York Post, the New York Times. Where's the Daily Bugle? I know the Daily Bugle isn't a newspaper in this world. It's J. Jonah Jameson's, YouTube channel, whatever. Like, we're not quite sure, to be completely honest, what J. Jonah Jameson's bag is in the MCU. But I hate how I'm frequently reminded that this exists in the MCU with a very limited budget, and also, vigilantes will be appearing, but they won't be saying much or doing anything at all, because that's expensive. So who can we get? Right, we can get swordsmen. That's about it. And it's And I'm
yeah,
not.
that's a weird choice.
I'm not saying I want cameos, but what I'm saying is like I. If this is meant to like this, like if Daredevil is bridging, Born Again is bridging the gap for Daredevil between the Netflix world and the wider MCU, I would like it to be a little. I don't want to say sillier because that's not what I'm after, but I wish it would be a little prouder of those comic book origins and just like have those moments. So I don't need them to say, to wheel on J.K. Simmons and say, and here's what J. Jonah Jameson says. What I wouldn't have, but how hard would it have been to have a little line in it of like, and even that weirdo with the mustache who's always going on about the spider guy, even he says, vigilante, like something like that. Like I'm constantly reminded while watching Born Again how this is a show about a man who dresses up as a devil and beats up, criminals, and yet the show is almost at times embarrassed that it's a show about a man who dresses up as a devil and beats up criminals. And I just wish it was a little bit. I wish it was a little bit more committed to being part of the MCU. So again, and Swordsman plays into this as well. Like, we get that. Like, that was a nice moment. I enjoyed it. It would make sense for Swordsman to be here in, those circles. He's rich. He's also a vigilante. I like that. But when you do those little moments and you don't do it other times, I'm very aware of like, I can see the parts, if you know what I mean. Like, I can see the glue, the glue that you've sort of like spread to sort of like cover up a crack because you couldn't quite do what you wanted because you don't want to go too far. And I realize that this is a very complicated, hell for me saying, why didn't they have the Daily Bugle in it? I didn't, to be completely honest. I think I just didn't want to talk about that argument at the beginning again, to be completely honest. But this has been I would say is a big complaint I do have with Born Again. Like, I wish there's been a lot of like just So, like, when Matt puts back on the costume, I blinked and thought, wait, did I miss him like a cool suit up montage, or like a celebration of him, or not even a celebration, like maybe it's a moment of tragedy of him finally putting the suit back on. It's just none of that drama or anything, and I wish it had the courage to be a little more colorful, a little bigger, to take advantage of the fact that it is. It can now reference the wider MCU outside of just, the Netflix stuff. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe in episode 10 we're gonna get, the Defenders all back. Like we made our predictions for it. Maybe that's what's gonna happen. Maybe that will happen in season 2. I know Spider-Man's never appearing in it. Maybe Moon Knight. You never know. Like
that'd be good.
I don't know. But that I would say was that little bit there. It was just. I get it when I'm watching like Avengers as well. I'm always like, just pay Sony a $5 to say Daily Bugle. Like, just do it.
You just want to see that logo again,
I do. But yes, I would say that would be my thing. And it ties into what you're saying as well about Bullseye not being in the costume. Again, I like my comic books. I like my comic book adaptations to be proudly comic book adaptations. So have him wearing a daft suit, with a big bullseye on his forehead.
Yeah, like, don't get me wrong. I don't necessarily mean like this episode would have been better if he was dressed in blue with a massive, white ring around his shoulders or anything. I don't actually think that would have worked thematically because he's just broken out of prison. But I just, in general, like, I whinged about the first episode. Like, that costume, I wasn't a fan of. I was like, I understand it. There are designs that are kind of similar, but I don't know. It just feels like an easy slam dunk of like, you have the warped Daredevil suit, like that, the bastardization of it. The themes in that are just great. So just do it. It's there. You can do it for free.
Yeah, and it's silly. It would be silly in our world for someone like Poindexter to dress up like that. However, he exists in a world when they teach kids. So back in 1945, Hitler was overthrown by a man with a red skull who tried to use the cosmic cube to build super weapons to take over Europe. That is the world they exist in. And I know, again, multiple tones. Stop whinging, you fucking comic book dweebs. Why are you always going on about this shit? But no one is going to bat an eyelid at Bullseye turning up in Matt's bastardized costume. It's the type of thing he would do. Like,
yeah.
it's...
Especially when, there's an element of it that's in there visually, which I really enjoyed, was the blue tones throughout the episode whenever it was showing Dex's perspective, and I was like, come on, you're edging the right way, just get the suit out of the locker wherever the fuck it is and stick it on him, cut the horns off, it'll be fine. But yeah, no, I do agree about like sort of acknowledging the wider world as well. Like, we don't even need to necessarily see these characters. Like, you don't need a Spider-Man cameo, for example. All I want is somebody to be like, there's somebody swinging up there, just in the background you see like a figure or somebody flying. Like, it's quite easy, and it would make more sense. Fuck it, give us a newspaper about the president turning into the Hulk or whatever the fuck's going on with Thunderbolts. Just something a bit more, to build out the world without necessarily having like a character pop in to be like, hello.
Well, that's entirely it. Like, and I appreciate, again, scheduling things. Captain America Brave New World moved about 18 million times. Those things are. Mm-hmm. Where's Avengers Tower? Like, it just, you see the skyline and it's just not there, and it's like, okay.
Yeah.
But so, yes.
Yeah.
A minor complaint in a fantastic episode is what I would say. It was very hard to find a hell section for this episode, and so I used it to beat my own drum about the MCU's irritating lack of continuity when it's supposed to pride itself on some degree of continuity.
Okay. I do have a little thing, and it may be seen as I can't think of the word. The word's gone. Jesus. I went to Catholic school and I can't think of the word.
Purgatory.
We'll go with slander. Fuck it. Basically, I love the fact that Josie is getting more screen time. Absolutely here for that. However, she has basically been relegated to Mystic Bartender number 3, because she just speaks in like vague advice and metaphors. She doesn't have actual like lines of dialogue that are hers, aside from basically being like, oh yeah, Foggy was drinking the whiskey he used to drink to celebrate cases. It's just like when she says,
may you always remember to forget the things that make you sad, but never forget to remember the things that make you glad.
Cheers.
Cheers.
It just felt a bit weird. I was like, just give us something normal to say. Like, normal people don't speak like this. They don't speak in Chinese proverbs like every 2 seconds, which she seemingly does all the time.
How many months has it been a year since Foggy died?
If it's not been a year, it's been close. No, it has been. It's been over a year, because they say 1 year later after his death. So it's possibly actually pushing 2 years, because the bank heist was St. Patrick's Day, and we know that Fisk got elected on like New Year's Eve.
Yes. Okay.
So we're moving way on a bit,
It's just, if I agree, I do not like when she comes in and says, "Hey Matt, I've got the plot. I've got the thing that's moving the plot along." Like, I'm willing to forgive it, like, because to be frank, we needed the plot to move along. We've been...
Yes.
I again, because I won't be on next week's episode, so I'll do a bigger hell for the wider show. But I will say, it has at times felt slightly aimless in its, like, what are we doing here? Like, where are we going? What's the story? Obviously, we're setting up this battle between Wilson and Matt, but to what end? And now we finally know what the end is, and like, we won't talk about next week's episode because Disney will shoot us. But like, this is like what we learned in this episode sets up the finale. I don't think we that's a very easy thing to say. I wish that we'd spent more time sort of with Matt trying to work out what had gone on with Foggy. Like, we get some lines in this week's episode. It's like, we looked into it. Like, we all did. We got nothing. I was like, well, that sounds interesting. Like, that sounds more interesting than whatever the fuck Muse was. I wish I could have seen that. So, well, like, I agree with you. I did think it was a little bit convenient that she was like, hey, look, here's the plot device. But
here's the bottle that he was drinking from like over a year ago,
which I remember.
All right, thanks, Josie.
Also, you owe me $15 for those 2 whiskeys because he never paid. I will say I have a line I love in that moment and a line I hate when Matt leaves and she says he didn't use his stick. I quite like that. I like that moment, and I hate the line when Matt says that was a year ago. How the fuck do you remember what Foggy was drinking? And she was like,
I think you're wrong about that.
How many oceans of Irish do you think I serve here? I know what my people drink.
I'm sorry. If you're American and you've got great Irish grandparents, you're not American. I mean, you could cut that. Like, if you think it's too.
Do you mean Irish?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Like, I'm sorry if you've got Irish grandparents. Oh, sorry, Irish great grandparents. You're not Irish. Like,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's very cheesy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so cheesy. I didn't like it. It's not my hell though, as I say.
No, I'm putting it in hell.
Okay.
Executive privileges. I think now if I don't know. Maybe it's just on my end, but I could hear some sort of strange transmission coming through the laptop. I think it might be Nick Staniforth trying to get in touch from whichever black hole the anti-vigilante taskforce have locked him away in. So we'll try and tune into that for a minute to see what he thinks about the episode.
Hello, Daredevil. I'm not here this week, but as Eammon's rightfully suggested, there's nothing that should stop me from chiming in from this week's episode, which is a bit meh for me. I'm going to go through my Heaven section and my Hell section real swiftly. Heaven section, Bullseye and Daredevil having a chat. Great to see. Lovely. Also, Matt losing his rag with just about everyone. What else? Loved the just stupidly suave Bond mode that he was in when he went for the dance with Heather and Vanessa and Fisk, and the whole switch up and the tension that was building, and also the obviously great little zoom of the lens flare on his ear, which was 3 targets, which was interesting because it could have been Fisk, it could have been Vanessa, or it could have been Daredevil. They're all great. Hell section, the beginning of the end for Matt and Heather, thank fuck, but Jesus Christ, she's still annoying. Very frustratingly, just saying all the wrong things and proving that she's just not that clever and a bit of a bland character that I wasn't really interested in. What else have we got? Just really retreading, using the same sort of tactic that Bullseye did in season 3 of Daredevil on Netflix when he invaded the Fisk and Vanessa's wedding, and doing exactly the same here. And Fisk really just not really that fussed about it. Just really confused me. Are they really going to do the same thing again? Yeah, they are. And it was just a bit shit, personally. How it was dressed up was nice, but the execution was a bit poor. What else we got? Hell section. Fucking Matt's realisation of Foggy picking a specific whiskey because he thought he'd won. I'm like, we've not focused on this for like 3 episodes now, and it suddenly just dawned on him. Wasn't a fan how this has been shoehorned in. That's about it. Honourable mentions are what we got. Wilson Fisk dancing solo will haunt me forever. What else? Vigilante crime is down 30%. Right, who else? Who else is doing it? Where are the rest of the vigilantes? We didn't see them. That was a bit trash. What else? Tom's on this podcast, so I can't argue with him, but I will say that once again, Daniel Blake is a wet flannel. Although he is, I swear to Christ, moment was very Tony Soprano, which, if you don't know, I really enjoy that show. Hope you have a good podcast, guys. See you in a bit. Bye. Bye.
So yeah, you were right. He did not like Daniel Blake. Shock horror. What's new?
He remains wrong.
I swear to God, you two are going to end up having some sort of like battling Jack Murdoch type fight in a ring over Daniel Blake.
He keeps texting me saying, when we go in for a night out. So maybe it's actually a trick. And I'll go, and there'll just be a boxing ring, and he'll come out in a red robe, fists up. I'll be embarrassed because Nick's giant.
He's gonna staple a picture of Daniel Blake to your face.
Has anyone? In fact, I would describe myself as kind of looking like Daniel Blake, and Nick kind of having like a good 2 feet on me potentially. So he could work out some real stress in that moment.
Wow. Okay. I mean, talk about that for therapy, Heather Glenn. So we'll move things up ever so slightly before we start talking about comments from our lovely listeners, and we've been engaging a bit more on Threads and Instagram, which has been lovely. If you had to rate this episode out of Billy Clubs, 5 Billy Clubs being the best, obviously 1 Billy Club being the absolute worst, what would you give it, Tom?
5 Billy Clubs.
Oh, straight 5. Jesus.
Because I don't believe in half Billy Clubs. Half stars are for cowards, as we all know. I think this is the best episode. Like, you know, I am not.
Really?
I'm not counting the next one, like, because legally we can't. But like, of what we have seen, this is far and away the best episode for me. Like, there are other episodes I really enjoy. I really like the first one. I really like the bank one. I like some of the. No, I don't like the Muse stuff. You know, like, but this for me is what I want from Daredevil. Like, you know, Fisk and Matt and Fisk, you know, playing mental games with each other from across over a dance hall. You know, Matt sort of trying to be a lawyer and losing it and losing himself a little bit. You know, conversations in bars where people say, if I don't know any better, I'd say you were self-destructing your own life. Like, you know, that's when I watch Daredevil. That's what I like about Daredevil. This gave me everything. It's the closest to, you know, I don't think you and Nick have made a secret of the fact that you'd think that this is good. It's not perhaps as good as the show when it was on Netflix. I would agree. I would say this is the closest this has been since that first episode to the Netflix version, and that's why I really liked it. So, while there are things I don't, you know, there are issues with it, I think it's the best episode we've had of it. So that's how I'm justifying my 5.
Fair. I mean, the defense rests, Your Honor. I would probably go 4 Billy Clubs out of 5. For the most part, really enjoyed it. I loved seeing Bullseye again. As I mentioned, like, that whole prison escape is just fantastic. You know, I mean, it gets a Billy Club just on its own for the tooth attack. But yeah, 4 for me. I'm going to be interested to see how it all plays out. I'm acting like I haven't seen the ending of the show, 2 months ago.
It's very confusing, isn't it? Like, he's sort of...
Yeah, honestly. I watched it all within a weekend, so it's almost like in a haze.
Yeah,
So it's been really interesting having a different viewing experience and watching it weekly. And I would actually say I've enjoyed the series as a whole more because I've been watching it weekly.
I would say that it's better to watch weekly than binge. I like the weekly format over the big binge because I completely agree. I did exactly the same thing. Watched it all in the span of probably the same weekend you did, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
And you know, you find yourself so exhausted. Oh God, it's hard watching television for a living. But you do come out of it being like, Jesus Christ, I'm knackered now. Like, and I would give it having time to breathe between weeks is so much better.
Yeah, and it builds the anticipation more. I just, you know, certain moments just sort of like blur into one, and you're like, wait, when did that happen?
Yeah.
When did Muse come back? When did Fisk show down with, yeah, it's crazy. But the show is continuing. We have season 2 on the way. They're filming it at the minute, and recently we got a shitload of set photos of Matt in the black suit. Now, me and Nick obviously touched on this a little bit last week, and it is a gorgeous suit, and I think those are some of the best set photos that have ever come out of a superhero project ever. There's a shot with Daredevil stood against Josie's on fire, I think, the bar, not the woman, and I'm just like, that could be a legit still. Like, it just looks like Daredevil. Like, it's just fantastic. First off, I just want to ask, like, what do you think of the black suit? Are you impressed? Do you like the double Ds?
I think the black suit. So my hot Daredevil take is I don't like the black suit in comics. Like, I just don't. However, I love the black suit in live action. I think it looks so fucking cool. Like, it's the first time we've had the double Ds. I like that it is the red suit and he's literally just spray painted it black. Like, I think that's really cool. Because why would he have why would he have a black suit? He's not got a chance to go to his LA tailor to whip up a black one this time. Like, clearly something has gone wrong in Matt's life. I think it looks really cool. I'm very excited by the fact we're clearly not doing Shadowland, because I hate that storyline. But we are taking the best thing from Shadowland, that black suit. And I really like as well, that's like those stills. You are right. Those photos, sorry. They look. I almost wouldn't be surprised if there was some surreptitious marketing going on, and Disney were like, "We're filming in New York. It's going to leak anyway. Just pay a paparazzi to take some photos and leak them online." Like, because they are so good. Like, normally you get some blurry picture of someone with a foil blanket over them, and you're like, oh, what are they wearing? And then Screen Rant do an article saying why this is proof that the DCU and MCU are about to cross over. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just cool. It looks amazing.
Well, we put it to our listeners on Threads and Instagram, as I said, and we had a few comments, had a few replies. Potato Half Orc, which is just like a phenomenal username, and I'm obsessed, replied, "Daredevil, to me at least, will always be the red suit. I get that it's great to see them paying homage to the different suits in the comics, and finally seeing the double Ds is fantastic. But I really hope this doesn't turn out to be a I'm wearing black now because I'm edgier moment. The fact that it appears to have been painted rather than being a willing transition, I do think is fun though." Which it's a good point. Matt is a sucker for being like, oh, I'm edgy, I better take things back to basics. Season 3 is the perfect example of that.
He's got some real bad news for Potato Head though, if he thinks that that isn't literally the reason he's going to wear a black suit.
I don't know. I do think there's going to be some sort of like stealth element to it. I literally can't go to a certain place because I'm dressed in a bright red devil costume.
So I think, to go back to something you said earlier, what we're doing here is we're doing the deconstruction of Matt Murdock and Daredevil, which we've now done 3 times in 3 different seasons, but we'll forgive him. Yeah. And I'm expecting Born Again Season 2 to end with him back in the red, and presumably the closest to the comics red suit we've ever had. Like, I'm expecting, the Marvelification of it. Like, we'll have red lenses, like a double D on there. Like, I'm expecting the definitive Daredevil suit, much like we got in No Way Home. That's kind of where I think we're going with this. No Way Home ended with, Tom Holland Spider-Man slipping on his, the definitive Spider-Man costume. That's what I'm kind of thinking we're going for here, and that's why we're playing with all these different looks right now.
Our second comment comes from Bobby Reads Comics. Well, so do we. I don't think it's the Shadowland suit. It just looks like a black costume, similar to the one Matt wore during Charles Soule's run. It feels like we're heading into parts of Chip Zdarsky's run, especially the storyline where Fisk starts cracking down on vigilantes. Maybe not a full-on Devil's Reign, but definitely pulling some concepts from it. I could not agree more. Bobby Reads Comics, you're spot on.
I think Bobby Reed's Comics needs to check out the boots and gloves on the costume that he's wearing in that moment. Because he is right, it's not the Shadowlands costume. It's obviously not. It's literally just the normal Daredevil suit spray painted black, as we keep saying. But the from that comics run he's talking about, Daredevil had red boots and red gloves, and I only know that because as I say, I hate Shadowlands, and I wanted an excuse to say they're clearly not doing Shadowlands, but I couldn't because of that, because he's not wearing the red boots and the red gloves, which blew a hole in my argument. But yeah, no, I think he's right. It's not going to be Shadowlands. It's probably going to take a lot from that run of comics. Maybe we'll get 10 Fingers. Remember him?
Oh, cheat.
We won't, for the record.
We're not going to get 10 Fingers. I was about to say Google that. Maybe don't Google that. That could get some weird search results. Moving on, Charlie Ashby. He replied about the suit. This is a sort of two-part comment. It's peak, and then goes on to say, and they handled Muse perfectly. People need to chill the fuck out and remember the Netflix show wasn't 100% perfect. Anyone who argues otherwise must watch the Hand arc from season 2 on a loop. I mean, you make a good argument, Charlie, because like that season 2 arc of the Hand, me and Nick, it was like a therapy session. That was not a fun time.
Yeah, I mean, like, no, I don't think anyone's saying that the Netflix show was perfect, because it wasn't. Like, we have season 2, with the Hand. You've got, Defenders. There's a lot of shit from the Netflix run, and even in season 3, which upon its high pedestal has moments where you're a bit like, come on. But yeah, I will say that our dissatisfaction, or certainly my dissatisfaction with Muse, comes from how much I enjoy that character's look. And although he doesn't have a massive presence in the comics, he is used in the comics is much more effective in this, where he is built up to be dispatched very quickly with no real bearing on things. He was just a filler villain, which I'm fine with, but at least make him cool. Well,
I don't know. I thought he was cool. I just think they could have used him way more than they did. I think we needed more of him earlier on in the season doing actual creepy shit rather than just like lurking around.
It would be nice if Matt was actively investigating him rather than actually only investigating him once someone he knows, is in trouble. Then he's like, oh shit, best suit up.
Yeah, we kind of get a hint to it about, I think Hector says something earlier on about like, oh, people are going missing, and then that's kind of about it. But I think you needed something to sell that harder, otherwise, I don't know. I just wish we got a little bit more Muse and a little bit more time with him to be a little creep, because he is a little creep. Yeah.
I'm not asked he didn't have his powers. Like, that doesn't bother me at all. Like,
that wasn't high on my list. I think they could have done it in a way that was like practical rather than like the actual superpowers. But I give it, take it or leave it.
Yeah,
I'm not
exactly. Well, they can say that people are mutants now, so you could have just said, "Oh, he's a mutant."
Oh shit! Yeah, you could just get away with it, or an Inhuman.
Yeah,
which would have been a bit of a twist on the Charles Soule. Oh god, the Terrigen Mist. Do you remember when Marvel were trying to make Inhumans a thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a time.
And then Sony
nobody's doing a podcast about that one.
No, they're not. But maybe you should. The Humacast, the Devacast, Inhumacast.
Look, I am not Matt Murdock. I don't hate myself that much.
What? No, we're not going to talk about the Inhumans.
No, I saw that. That was a moment. That was a good moment of self-restraint. Well done. And I feel like leaving the Inhumans there, we should also leave this podcast there for this episode. If you've enjoyed it, you can follow us on Threads, X, TikTok, Instagram @DaredevilCast. We've had a bunch of you get in touch, mainly about the Muse storyline. That's stoked a lot of conversation, and most of you hated it, so that was fun. But yeah, you can tweet me, get in touch with me, all that good stuff @Eammon Jacobs. If you want to reach out to Tom is available at
think you'd learn my Twitter handle, wouldn't you? But here we are. TW Percival 1? Yeah, I think that's me. I don't know.
Just tweet that and see if it works.
Yeah,
might do, might
there
not.
are actually 2 other Tom Percivals as well on Twitter, who are both writers as well. So
fantastic. I actually think they're just your alternate selves from throughout the multiverse.
That's very possible. Or they're my Moon Knight style dupes. There's one of me who's a child's author. There's one of me who's a journalist for the BBC. They all think that they're the real me, but no, it's me.
Wow, now there's a conspiracy theory you weren't expecting today. If you have enjoyed this show, please do give us a rate on Spotify, Apple, whatever you're listening on. It really does help the show grow. Given the listens that we have and the amount of ratings that we have, they don't correlate. So you're there. I can see you. Just scroll down, go to the little stars, press 5 because that'd be nice. And yeah, thank you very much. For now, we will see you next week when we come to an end of Daredevil Born Again. It's going to be over. We've got 1 episode left, which feels mental because it's already April. This year is flying by. What the fuck?
Oh, give me. That's the theme tune.
I'm gonna have to remix the theme tune with the Tom version.
Yeah, please do.
Lovely.
I'm Daredevil. Not even God can stop that now.